Well, since the pandemic began, most kids have increased their screen time and certainly the amount of time they are spending on those devices.
Joining us now is one of our favorites, Dr. Saunders, a psychologist at the Institute of Living. Doc, what are we going to do? I saw one of these statistics that said the kids are on their tablets 6 to 10 hours a day on screens. That is remarkable.
Especially during a lot of hybrid and remote learning. So they are, they're on screens for that. And then because there's not always as many after-school activities, they're on their screens more. And honestly, I was that person in the spring saying, let them do whatever they need to do. We need to get through this, but we need to start to regulate this a little bit better. It's getting to be too much.
And what are the downsides and the actual proven problems with this? Because sometimes it's a big argument with the kids or parents will give in, but there's some research that this isn't good, right?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of research on this. I mean, like some of the desensitization in your brain to all the blue light, the time distortion, you just lose track of time and space. We have an entire generation of kids that expect instant gratification, right? You press a button and something happens. And, to learn to read is not instant gratification. So we're creating a lot of problems around, this illusion that you're doing something productive with your time when you're really not doing something production. And I always worry about social skills, right? The belief that all this interaction creates social skills when it's not quite the same reciprocity and back and forth that you need to learn when you do interact with people live and in person.
What about, they physically lose their sense of space and time on these tablets.
Well, because, someone could be playing, if you're reading a book, right, those people that love to read, they can, you've heard people use the phrase, I got lost in that book, right?
Yes.
But that really stimulates your brain. A lot of these video games and other kind of electronics or TikTok or whatever you're doing to run through screens, I've heard, young people say, oh my God, I was on TikTok for 2 hours. I didn't even realize it. I just lost track of time. And it's not a good use of time. It's not really stimulating you. I mean, once in a while we all need breaks, but we need to come up with ways for our young people to take breaks.
So what do you recommend? I know parents out there are going, this is a great idea, but how do I implement it? And I don't want the pushback.
So I don't look at anything as an all or nothing approach. I think what we do is we try to build in breaks. Now, I'm not even talking about, breaks during your Zoom school time. I'm talking about, gaming breaks where you just, this is just a 30-minute time that's electronic free, where you learn the skill of self-soothing. What am I going to do with myself? Do I go for a walk outside? Do I, pull out a board game? Do I try to interact with my sibling? So look at small chunks of time where you can just be screen-free as a way to build in that time where your brain actually gets a little bit of rest.
And you talk specifically about setting time limits during these. Like, okay, you're going to get it for 30 minutes, and then after that, you got to go find something else to do.
Right, and that's easier with younger kids and with latency age. It's a lot harder with teenagers because they're in their rooms and their doors are shut. And so it's just kind of checking in with them and putting different platforms in or where you can, keep track of what they're doing. So I understand we're in a global pandemic and this is hard, but trying to reduce things where you can. Otherwise, you're just going to create a bunch of needy, independent children, which is really what Scott likes anyway.
Right. Exactly.
Very good. Touche.
Well, and often, your kids will say, I was on school all day, Mom, I just need a break. And to so many of these kids, a break means laying on the couch with a screen. So teaching them that they can actually feel better if they just get outside and do a bike ride.
Right. I agree they need a break, and you're correct, Kara, that they think a break is I'm not learning something, I'm just mindlessly doing something. But that mindlessness is still stimulating your brain in ways that's not truly taking a break. In some ways it's like, well, TV's better than screens that are, 8 inches from your face. So just trying to do things that are a little bit more outside. I mean, again, the weather's still pretty good. Let's get kids outside. There'll be a time where we can't have them outside so much. So just trying to create breaks. I'm not into an all or nothing approach.
I love this statistic is mind-blowing to me. 8.5% of U.S. youth are addicted to video games. 8.5%.
Right, and that doesn't even count all the kids that are, so into gaming that they don't meet the criteria for addiction. But that's a lot of kids. That's just under 10%. And it's right. So we need to do what we can to create breaks, and it becomes a problem when it hinders their functioning. When they're not going to bed at night, when they're not going to school, when they're not doing any of their homework, when they're not going to sports, when they're not doing things because they're so addicted to gaming.
And the flip side, if they are doing all those things, going to school, getting a good night's sleep, then maybe you can relax and go, okay, I'm not ruining my kids with screens.
Right. I'm not ruining my kids with screens, but let's take a 20-minute break, or let's take a 30-minute break. It's just teaching them to do that. And again, as adults, we do it too, right? You're standing in line somewhere, you're waiting for something, boom, what do? We pull out a screen to stimulate ourselves.
Thank you, Dr. Saunders. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
We'll see you next.
Okay, see you next week.